Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to call the Planning Commission to order at, well, I have 6:03. Commissioner Daly, can you lead us in the flag salute?
Yes. Put your heart over your hand and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Sosa, can I have a recall, please, or a roll call, please?
Of course. Chair Sherrick is absent today. Vice Chair Coyle.
Here.
Commissioner Daly.
Here.
Commissioner Lopez.
Here.
Commissioner Ivan Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Galande. Here. Commissioner Pratt.
Here.
Commissioner Carloni.
Here.
Commissioner Orlando Garcia is absent today.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, this is regarding public comments for items listed and not listed on the agenda. At this time, public comments will be heard for items on the agenda or not on the agenda, excluding public hearing items. To address the Planning Commission, everyone must complete a speaker card and provide it to the Planning Commission clerk. Only those speaker cards turned in to the Planning Commission clerk will be allowed to address the Planning Commission. Each person should state their name for the record. A 3-minute limitation shall apply to each member of the public who wishes to address the Planning Commission on any item on the agenda or not on the agenda, excluding public hearings. There is not a limit to the number of items that may be discussed within the 3-minute time limit. If you are required a Spanish interpreter, we do have an interpreter on site, I believe. Please raise your hand at this time and indicate that you need the interpreter assistance.
Vice Chair, we don't have a Spanish interpreter. We changed our, well, we can make, if somebody needs one, we need our notice to actually have one available at the meeting, but I don't see anybody in here making that request today. So.
Yeah, I didn't see any hands raised, so it looks like we're good.
Right, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Sosa, would you please conduct the administration of oath for any public speakers?
Of course. Please stand and raise your hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this body will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say, I do. Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay, I actually don't see any, but for the record, is there anyone wishing to speak on matters that are on the agenda or not on the agenda, excluding public hearings?
Vice Chair, the representative for the applicant is running a bit late. I know she would also want to give public testimony, so I don't know if we want to trail for maybe a couple of minutes. So, Angeline, do we know when she's expected to arrive? Is she here yet?
If I can
Yeah,
add,
she's on her way.
Did we do
we can
consent?
swear her in once she arrives before she speaks as well.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, well, we can go forward with the next items on the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are routine in nature and may be enacted in one motion. All consent items shall be considered at one time unless an item is pulled for question or discussion by any member of the Planning Commission. Do the staff have any updates to the consent calendar, or any planning commissioners have anything you want to pull from the consent calendar?
Staff has none, Vice Chair.
Okay, and I see none. Okay, we can go ahead with the staff presentation, right?
Vice Chair, we do need a motion, a second, and a vote on the consent calendar.
Okay. All right, looking for a motion for the consent calendar.
Vice Chair Quayle?
We
need
I
a mo-
apologize.
We need a
first.
motion. We need a motion first.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent calendar items.
We need a
Second
second.
Need a
motion?
second.
A motion by Commissioner Garcia, second by Commissioner Pratt. Roll call.
Okay, we'll do the roll call.
Vice Chair Quayle?
Yes.
Commissioner Daly?
I'm going to abstain because I was absent.
Commissioner Lopez?
Yes, ma'am. What? Yes.
Commissioner Ivan Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Galande?
Yes.
Commissioner Pratt?
Yes.
Commissioner Carloni?
Yes.
Vice Chair, if I may just explain, the reason why Commissioner Daly is abstaining is because he was not present at that July 8 meeting. So if there's any other commissioners that were not present at the July 8 meeting, then you don't have to, you can abstain from voting. Commissioner Lopez, were you at the July 8 Planning Commission meeting, present at the meeting? Were you at the July 8 Planning Commission meeting? I don't remember. I don't understand you. I can't hear you. Were you present at the July 8 Yes. Planning Commission meeting? Thank you.
Mr. Ali, I wasn't present, but an abstain counts as a yes vote, correct? Or opposite?
I have the bylaws right here. Let me double check. Oh, wait. Right. I believe it is yes. The abstention by any commissioner who is present for an item considered and has heard all presented evidence shall constitute an affirmative vote on any motion. So yeah, abstentions count as yes. But that's on substantive things. This is just the minutes on the consent calendar. And so, I mean, I have no issue counting as yes. Technically, you can, even when you're not at the meeting, you're just saying the minutes are accurate to your knowledge. So you can still technically vote on it. So I don't have any issue with anybody needed to change their vote. Is the voting complete? Or you still have some more to record?
Yes, voting is complete.
Yes.
Did it pass?
Yes.
Okay,
Vote passes 6-1.
thank you. Back to you, Vice Chair.
Okay, we'll move forward. Public hearing on items. Planning Commission, excuse me, Planning Commission will first hear a report from staff, and then the public hearing will be opened. The applicant will have an opportunity to speak. Next, members of the public will be allowed to speak. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak must be sworn in and fill out a request to speak form, and the forms are located on the table near the door. When your name is called, come forward and speak your name, the microphone. Say and spell your name for the tape record. After all is spoken, the applicant will be allowed to respond. The public hearing will be closed, and the Planning Commission will begin deliberation and making a decision. All decisions except general plan amendments and municipal code amendments are final actions unless an appeal is filed, and fees are paid within 15 days to the Community Development and Housing Department. If you challenge the resulting action of the Planning Commission in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described in this agenda or in written correspondence delivered to the Community Development Housing Department at or before the public hearing. So from there, we'll introduce, if you can introduce item number 2, and staff.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission and members of the public. My name is Angeline Mendoza, and I am presenting item 2, conditional use permit 23-01 and public convenience or necessity 23-01. Conditional use permit 23-1 and public convenience or necessity 23-1 is a request for the sale to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages under a Type 20 beer and wine license at an existing Arco gas station and convenience store located along the southeast corner of West Highland Avenue and North Mountain View Avenue on a parcel zone commercial general CG1, and it's approximately 0.38 acres. Before you is a photo of the site and the surrounding context. And here we see the project is mainly surrounded by commercially and residentially zoned parcels. Existing site conditions were confirmed for the last month hearing of Planning Commission, and this is what you have before you. Staff's recommendation is based on analysis of the census tract data. The subject site itself is located in census tract 54.00, which does allow for 5 off-sale licenses. Currently, the census tract has 7 active off-sale licenses for an overage of 2. This has triggered the public convenience or necessity process with the city of San Bernardino. In addition to the census tract data, PD's report was reran as requested from the Planning Commission last month to reflect the dates from 2024 to 2025 to the present. With that, the subject site saw a total of 140 crimes during the reporting period, which then exceeds the average by 104.65%. In addition to those 2 factors, staff's recommendation is also based on our evaluation of particular uses within a 500-foot threshold of the subject property. This includes Iglesias de Restauración San Bernardino, La Luz del Mundo, Green Shack Marketplace, and 7-Eleven, which encompasses the development code's locational restrictions for places of worship and other alcohol outlets that are currently operating. Although service stations can be considered for an exemption to distance requirements from the certain sensitive uses that were detailed in the slide beforehand, staff's recommendation for denial and reaffirmation of denial from last Planning Commission's hearing is based on those 3 factors: the locational restrictions of the outlets, the sensitive uses within that 500-foot threshold, and the crime statistics. It was established during our last Planning Commission hearing when this was heard that the item instead would be going for a Type 20, which is a de-intensification of the initial proposed license of the Type 21. However, the development code does not make a distinction between what kind of alcohol outlet, between an off-sale general, which includes liquor, and an off-sale beer and wine, which does not. Instead, staff's recommendation for denial and reaffirmation of denial is based on those 3 factors, and that's what we have for you today. As staff recommends Planning Commission to take the following action of adopting resolution number 2025-038, denying conditional use permit 23-01, and public convenience or necessity 23-01, and not allowing the request for an ABC Type 20 off-sale beer and wine license. Staff, the representative for the applicant, is available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll open the public hearing at 6:16. Does the applicant have any comments? I have a speaker slip for the applicant and one for the owner.
Okay. Hi.
I do
Um,
apologize. We're gonna have to swear you in
Oh, okay.
before speaking. So please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this body will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Okay, again, good evening, and I apologize for being late. And again, thank you, planners and everybody with the city. The last time that we were here, I believe it was July the 8th, we did talk about a whole bunch of mitigating measures that could help with being afraid of this place having alcohol and crime. I did say I live in the county of San Bernardino. I understand crime is an issue, but I do believe that you should give this person a chance. There's ways to mitigate things. You can have them come back in 2 years for a review. For example, like the city of Los Angeles does what's called plan approvals. After a CUP has been issued, they do it a lot for alcohol cases, to have them come back 2 years, 3 years, to make sure that they're complying with the conditions, to make sure they're not causing any kind of negative impacts to the neighborhood or whatever. They do multiple things to ensure, to allow a person to move forward and not just cut them off. One of the other issues was, I guess, the PCN. There is a public convenience and necessity. You have, I believe there's 7 active licenses that are within the census tract. And I believe 2 of them are full line, the rest are beer and wine. They're old licenses. I believe the first license was issued in 1986 or before that. A lot of people don't even have in their codes conditional uses for alcohol. Most of them are over 2 decades old. They've been there for a long time. So it's unfair to not allow someone just to try who does have multiple places that do have alcohol. He's respects the law. He is a really good businessman, and he knows that an alcohol license is a privilege. So I do know in the staff report, there was the mention of a maximum that ABC allows for that census tract. It's actually ABC allocates numbers for off-site and on-site sales, whether it's for a restaurant, sit-down, or off-site. So if a city or a county will allow alcohol, the state will take it. Just because they allocate a specific number based on that population does not mean they're going to deny. If it says 7, they'll probably take 14. It's just based on what a city or a county allows. Because you're in the city, or your business is in that city or in that county, it's you that will allow it, or you that do not allow it. So I don't believe there's any kind of over concentration in this census tract. I'm not sure about the PCN as far as it being required by ABC, but as far as the city is concerned, you do need to make that finding. I think that if he has a business that's there, you have someone that's going in there for gas, going into the convenience store, it would be unfair to tell him you can go across the street to get the rest of your stuff, the rest of the items that you're looking for. Competition is a good thing. It's a good thing to have a responsible person operating. It's basically he just needs to have a chance to
Thank
prove
you.
to you.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz.
Hi guys, my name is Kevin. I'm the owner of the Arco gas station. My name is Kevin Bibayan. A lot of your faces look familiar from the July 8th meeting, but some things we talked about before, and I just want to remind you guys to hopefully get the blessing and the opportunity to sell beer at this particular location. So me and my cousin Nathan were Arco's biggest franchisee in Southern California, Washington, Nevada. We operate over 35 locations. Thank God we've never had a issue with ABC, which is the state of California. We've never sold to underage. And a lot of that goes thanks to the franchise we work with, which is AMPM. And some things we talked about at the July 8th meeting is, we have a point of sale system, and that point of sale system is designed for protection of our employees and the consumer, for us not to sell to an underage or if somebody has a fake ID or whatever. Last time on the July 8th meeting, we had San Bernardino City Police, I think it was a lieutenant here, and he didn't, to my memory, he didn't say anything bad. And one thing that we work with many other cities, and we brought it up to the lieutenant, was we have absolutely zero issue regarding the concern of crime, of having the local police integrated into our camera system. I mean, if anything, I want that with beer or without, with or without. So that's one thing. And one thing that we did offer at the last Planning Commission hearing, which we have no issue doing again, it's for safety for all, is putting locking mechanisms on our doors. And it's like a magnetic lock. And these are just extra precautions I take as a retailer myself, and, with concerns of crime and all those things. And it's just, we've owned the site for a few years now, and I think Erica said it best. Competition is good. When somebody comes into our place and wants to pump gas and they're like, oh, let me run to 7-Eleven across the street or to the liquor store, it's they're taking advantage of our customers. So we want to be able to compete at the same time, in this ever-changing environment. So if you guys can bless us, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now close the public hearing. Is there any discussion amongst the planning commissioners? Commissioner?
I think my main concern, we're already over the limit. So now how good the business is and, very successful, but yeah, at some point, if we're supposed to only have 5 in that area and now we're up to 7, we shouldn't have done the other 2. So that's one of my main concerns.
Just based on my knowledge of the location, I regret the fact that you guys are there last, but I'm just not sure if a higher concentration of alcohol sales in that location is conducive to public safety, because it's tough down there.
Go ahead. Oh, I cannot support this application for the following reasons. Sometime in the latter 90s, I was part of an evaluation of how many alcohol outlets were in the city of San Bernardino. And I don't remember the count, but it was very high. And the majority of those outlets were in low-income areas. In a street like Baseline, and Baseline has deteriorated a lot in the core where Arco is located, that the outlets were almost on top of each other when we pinpointed them in the map. This is a low-income area, and Highland is one of the last business sections that we have in the city. Small businesses, yes. Many of them have closed and not reopened. So we have empty buildings. You say, give the applicant a chance. And maybe in 2 years we can revisit it. Who of us will be here in 2 years to revisit? And we know that the department is not necessarily great at following up. It's a low-income area, so those people are also going to be affected. ABC has put in a regulation of 5 for that area, but we have 7. So since 1999, or when we did the survey, and it was done with the Public Health Department and a UCR professor, there's who knows how many countless more because of convenience and necessity. And I don't see, since the ABC regulation is the only pushback that the people have as to how many alcohol outlets are in their neighborhoods. And if we go with this, we're going to reverse because it's already at 7. We're going to have 8. So I just can't afford it. And maybe so the ARCO owner is a likable guy and very good, and he says that he will do everything. But still, it still is saturated to 8, and I can't support it. Thank you.
I had a couple of questions and comments. First off, was this item presented previously in the last 12 months? Did we discuss it, or was it another one that was similar?
This item was continued from last month's Planning Commission hearing. Originally, they were gunning for the Type 21 off-sale general, but then they decided to proceed for a Type 20 off-sale beer and wine. And in that, I would also like to read into the record that on the agenda, when porting the information over from all those changes being made, it should reflect a Type 20 off-sale beer and wine, just in the description.
All right, I think I may have confused it with another item in the previous month. I think it was an ARCO that we voted on. I wanted to focus on the crime rate reporting, the districts. If staff can break out, we're saying that we have an average of 68.41. Out of those crime rates, how many are related to alcohol or driving while impaired?
So in terms of how the police department conducts their study and, looks at the statistics, in terms of alcohol-related crimes at the proposed location, there were 2. And then there were also 2 within a half-mile radius in the reporting period of 2024 to 2025.
Okay, so we're saying we have 144 crimes during the period, which exceeds 104. So if I'm understanding that correctly, 2 out of the 144 were related to alcohol. Is that correct? Or out of whatever number you have on crimes?
Yes, that is the way that the statistics read.
Okay, and then can you just elaborate on the Part 1 crimes versus the Part 2 crimes?
So for this one, specific to the police department, Part 2, in terms of Part 2 crimes, it's in terms of the intensity of the crime or the type of crime. And so alcohol-related crimes are included within that umbrella term of Part 2 crimes. And that's how the PD report was structured.
And when you say alcohol-related, that can be at a business, at a single-family residence, multifamily. Is that the interpretation?
For the alcohol-related crimes at the proposed location itself, the 2 that were reported by PD, it can range from anything from public intoxication at the site, or nearby the site, they don't release the specifics of what kind of alcohol-related crime.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that I'm in favor of this project, because I believe it's not fair. I think, I'm a general contractor. That would be like me saying the city can only have a certain number of general contractors, when if there's 5 others, that there can only be 5, there can't be 6 or 7. So I'm going to support this project tonight. Thank you for answering my questions.
I will say, throughout the city of San Bernardino, it's common to have census tracts that have active licenses that, you know, have an overage of what ABC generally allows. And if that were just the sole remaining factor, it'd be a different conversation entirely. But because the census tract data was taken in consideration, in addition to PD's report, the locational restrictions, those 3 in culmination led to staff's recommendation for denial.
Vice Chair Quill, just a matter of correction as far as what is a Part 1 crime or what is a Part 2 crime. According to FBI statistics, using uniform crime data, a Part 2 crime are considered nonviolent crimes such as fraud, vandalism, and public drunkenness. So this particular category, if it's kind of alcohol related, would be considered a Part 2 crime, whereas a Part 1 crime are things like murder, manslaughter, forcible rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, theft, motor vehicle theft, and arson. So there's quite a big distinction between what is a Part 1 and what is a Part 2. I would imagine that if the police report says that this is alcohol related, it's probably a Part 2 crime rather than a Part 1.
Thank you. Staff, I have a question, and you brought it up just a minute ago. At the last meeting, there was an error, I believe, in the, whether it was a type 21 or a 20 license.
So
Are we requesting a 20 or 21?
So it was less of an error, more so the applicant had de-intensified their request to a type 20. Today's, the part where I read into the record, it was just the project description from the previous meeting reading as a 21, since originally that was their request.
Okay, so what they are requesting is a beer and wine license?
Yes, for today's planning commission hearing, they are now proposing a type 20 beer and wine, so no liquor.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So I appreciate the conversation here. My questions were kind of along the lines of my colleague around like the threshold or the, because I've sat in meetings where we've had beer and wine requests come before us, and the census tract has more than the number, the guideline number, whatever that might be, right? And so, I've been in meetings where I've received recommendations to approve, even with the fact that we have, 5 active licenses in an area that, the guidelines say should only have 3 or whatever that might be. And so my question was at what point does where does that trigger us to go from, okay, that's fine, a little saturation is okay, to saturation, okay, but mitigating circumstances A, B, and C that lean us into, recommendation for denial. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a good question. So yes, in terms of precedents, if it were but if the sole reason is an overconcentration, you're right, that can definitely be mitigated through site-specific conditions. So in that case, we'd work with the applicant of, including more stringent conditions, be it, hours of operation, things like that. In terms of staff's recommendation and reaffirmation of the denial for this item, it is in addition, so it's the overage in addition to the crime statistics. So we actually had PD rerun the report, and in terms of their statistics, it's still a pretty high crime area. And lastly, it is the locational restrictions in terms of being within that 500-foot threshold of 2 places of worship and 2 other alcohol outlets. If it were one or the other, we could work with the applicant in terms of mitigating the proposed use. This project does present all 3 at the same time.
Yeah, thank you. That answers my question and helps clarify where I was on that. Yeah, and just looking at the analysis slide here, we're showing citywide average crimes per reporting district a little over 68. In the subject reporting district, just in part 1 crimes alone, we're at 79, and more than double the average. So that certainly is a compelling consideration. So thank you.
Vice Chair, Commissioner Daly, I think another example, because in this particular case, we also have to make a finding of public convenience and necessity. If this were a grocery store, for example, I think making that public convenience and necessity finding might be a little bit easier, even if you have a high crime rate, because in a grocery store, you get to buy food, you get to buy some other, perishable items, et cetera, et cetera. When it comes to just a facility that only sells alcohol and small amount of groceries, it's more difficult to make that kind of a finding. But so you may be thinking about examples of even when you have a situation where the numbers are high, but you have a grocery store, they operate under some slightly different circumstances. So making that PCN finding will be a little bit easier.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Does the city take into consideration that it's a low-income area? Do you look at the area?
No, we are not allowed to look at factors like that.
So then you don't know. It seems like we're selling the city short with this convenience and necessity.
The public convenience and necessity is mainly aimed for the public welfare in terms of health and safety. We don't receive any reports in terms of whether or not an area.
Well, I asked because the title is the Department of Community Development. And because you have the word community, I would suspect that you would consider the area that a certain business was going to be locating, that it is appropriate or not appropriate, and so forth. That's why I'm asking.
Vice Chair, Commissioner Lopez, what Angeline is trying to state to you is that is part of the overall consideration, but it's not the focus of the consideration, because you could have an affluent neighborhood that also has high crime and has a high concentration of alcoholic beverages and has a high rate of accidents from people who are intoxicated. So we can't really focus solely on being and it's not an intentional thing that, well, we're locating this ARCO station because it's in a low-income neighborhood. Now, that could have been a factor 50 years ago, but what we're dealing with today is that we have a gas station, we have this request, and it just so happens that it's in an area that is considered low income. In fact, when you look at the city of San Bernardino in general, you don't have too many areas that are not low income areas statistically. Whether you're looking at, I know what you mean, but statistically from the government standpoint, when you look at the AMI and things of that nature, there are quite a lot more areas in the city that are considered low income than there are not. So that's
Well, I'm not saying that is the only focus, but that should be a focus. And she couldn't answer that question. She said, no, we're not allowed to. the fact of what the area is, what the business component is, would this development be appropriate for this particular community? That's what I would like to see, because that really says that this is a comprehensive community development. We're not just looking that it's going to enhance revenues for the city by
Commissioner
granting
Lopez?
this application.
Commissioner Lopez, if you don't mind me cutting in, I do want to reiterate that staff's recommendation is for denial of the project for the sake of community welfare.
Commissioner?
If I may ask staff, if you could just summarize the findings of fact for denial of this project, if you
got
may,
it.
please.
So to sum it up into three main factors: census tract data as an overage. To reiterate, the Department of ABC does allow for 5 licenses, and I know this isn't your guys' first rodeo, and it won't be your last, and you guys have definitely seen census tracts with an overage in licenses. And so typically we do mitigate that through site-specific conditions, specific to alcohol. And in addition to that factor, we were also looking at PD's report. So we're looking at a high crime area to the point where initially this project was submitted in 2023. As part of PD's practices, they don't typically rerun statistics or their reports. At the request of Planning Commission from the last hearing when it was continued, we have the most updated report of 2024 to 2025. And it did report that there was an overage of 104.65%. And this is in relation to the, I believe, 106% from the previous report done. Granted, the crime rate for average across the city did go down. And so if we were to analyze them side by side, we're still looking at a high crime area. Those two factors in addition to the locational restrictions, which I'll pull up again. So we have 2 places of worship and 2 other alcohol outlets. Those 3 factors in culmination is what led to staff's recommendation for denial of the proposed Type 20 license.
And then one other question. If we're over the census tract, how does ABC look at that?
Yes,
Or how
so
the city, another question is, in other cities, are there districts that are over the maximum or the allowed number of off-sale licenses?
So in terms of your first question, for any overages, we see it all throughout the city. In terms of how ABC looks at it, an overage doesn't preclude them from being able to apply for a license. It just means there are extra considerations. So in this case, it's the crime in the area, anything that a local jurisdiction may want to consider. In this case, it was those 3 factors between the location, the crime, and the overage. So to sum up for that question, it doesn't preclude them. It just makes us want to evaluate more factors. In terms of your second question, do you mind repeating it for me?
And the second question, do other cities have districts that are above the maximum the allowed off-sale licenses? So if it's 5, do they have 10? Or if they have 5, do they have 8 or do they have 12?
Generally speaking, in terms of just industry standards, it's not uncommon to have that kind of situation, but unfortunately, I can only speak to the city of San Bernardino at this time.
Vice Chair Kuhl, Commissioner Garcia. The findings for the denial can be found in the resolution that you have, and it basically goes a little bit further than just those 3 prevailing things, because at the end of the day, this is a conditional use permit. In order to approve or deny a conditional use permit, there are findings that have to be made, and the findings have been made in this particular instance leading to the denial. And there are 6 or 7 findings that have been made in this particular instance. So that is the basis for the denial, in addition to, of course, the crime statistics and so on and so forth. But like Angeline said, it's not unusual in some jurisdictions to consider all the census tract information and still make a decision one way or the other. The Planning Commission has the jurisdiction to do that. In this particular instance, my experience has been sometimes the way the census tracts are drawn, they're not. You could have a concentration of licenses just across the census tract on the other side, which may impact one's ability to operate a business of this kind of nature. So it's something that the commission just has to come to a determination on this particular project going forward. And if you have any recommendations for us as to how you want us to present these kinds of cases to you in the future, let us know that. But for now, basically, we use crime statistics, we use census tract data, and we use over-concentration or under-concentration of licenses, including licensing types for our determination.
I just wanted to make one more comment. I don't understand how we have other businesses that have these off-sale licenses at Type 20 and Type 21 within less than 500 feet from these worship buildings. I don't know how that happened. It was obviously in the past years. Maybe that's something that we need to present to city council and upper management, if you will. I just think it's a little bit unfair because there's other businesses that are operating with the Type 20 or Type 21 license. That's it for me.
And Commissioner, Vice Chair Quayle, Commissioner Garcia, I mean, if you have, I don't think we've had any motions made yet. We've just basically, we've had comments from planning commissioners. If a motion is made, one way or the other, there's always opportunity for an alternative motion to be made. If a motion is made for approval and there's no second, or a motion is made for a denial and there's no second, then there's alternative motions that can be made, and then these kinds of considerations can be brought up. I mean, you are the decision makers on this particular case, and either way, the applicant has the option to appeal whatever decision comes out of this hearing tonight. So whether you approve or deny, there's opportunities for a redress in front of the city council, depending on what they choose to do.
Vice Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation to deny.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
We have a second? Okay, with the first and the second, then we'll call for the vote. Ms. Socia?
Vice Chair Quayle,
Yes to deny it.
Commissioner Daly,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez. Yes to deny it. Commissioner Ivan Garcia,
No.
Commissioner Galande,
Yes.
Commissioner Pratt,
Yes.
Commissioner Carloni.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vote passes 6-1.
Thank you.
Commissioner Quayle and members of the Planning Commission, the applicant, based on our code requirements, the applicant has the privilege of appealing whatever decisions that are made at a Planning Commission meeting if they choose to do that, and they have 15 days to appeal this decision if that's the way they want to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are at the end of our agenda, but there is something that I would like to bring up. And I guess that would be in Planning Commission reports or announcements. I have a real concern with something we approved at the last meeting. It was actually, it's that project on Austin Way, I think it is. The hotel, the Motel the 6 or whatever it is. I believe we were misled in the second meeting, because the first meeting we had with them, we did ask questions, and the second meeting, they contradicted the answers to the first questions. I have not gone back and listened to any tapes or anything like this, but I've been bothered ever since that meeting, and so I wanted to bring it up. I have visited that site twice, and every time I have visited, the upkeep is terrible. And I believe that's what we may be in for. I know there were some conditions, and the conditions were to be brought back to us. Do those conditions get brought back to us before the approval, or has it already been approved and we're waiting to see the conditions?
Vice Chair Quayle, the resolution as we left the Planning Commission meeting was that Planning, Building and Safety, and the Police Department would conduct monthly inspections of the facility. And then after, in 6 months, we'll come back to you with a report as to whether or not they were in compliance with the conditions of approval. So that was the premise of the approval, is it's conditional based on monthly inspections. What we're waiting for now is for them to be issued a C of O. Now, there are 2 main operations happening at this location. The one we approved is for NHHA, and they do recuperative care. There's another operation that currently is there at this particular time, and at that same facility, I think the city also has a motel voucher program that is being run from that location. So whatever you may have seen may not necessarily be something that was being operated by NHHA, even though I know that they have some portion of their business also there. So it's kind of hard to compare what is really going on at that location at this particular time. But when they do get their C of O for this recuperative care function of it, then we would have the recourse to go there and do our monthly inspections with those 3 departments and then report to the Planning Commission. So I don't know what you thought might have been misrepresentation on their part to you, but I also do, so please, if you want to expand on that.
Hey, Larry? Can I say something? So in that meeting, we gave them 90 days to bring back improved elevations and landscaping plans. Okay, so that's next month. Have anybody looked at that? Is anybody doing that? Travis, you know anything about that?
It'll be 90 days on the date of approval.
Yes, from that meeting.
But they can't bring any elevations in until they actually occupy the building. So it'll be 90 days from the
They
time.
have occupied that building. I was there today.
NNHA is operating a recuperative care facility from that building?
I have signs on the window that prove it.
Okay.
Yeah, they're there.
All right. So, okay, good. That's good to
And
know.
they need to abide by that, or we need to pull it.
Oh, yeah, that's all part of the conditions.
Yeah. But it has to be enforced, and I've seen that all around the city. I was born and raised here, and I'm telling you that we don't follow through, and we need to follow through on these plans.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can we just kind of go back on what you had said in regards to the voucher program? And that's what you know is the voucher program, and then there's NHHA. Those are the only 2. That's actually false. There's an organization called the Whole Person Care Clinic, WPCC. They have been actually running out of that facility, and on their website, they actually have the address for the Ulstrom Ray, and they've had that for months. Obviously, they've been running out of that facility for a long time.
Okay.
I had a chance to actually do a walkthrough of their location for NHHA, which is under, I forget, Care something hospital. It's a hospital location, not a motel. And there was numerous signage for WPCC, which is the Whole Person Care Clinic, which falls underneath one of the subsidiaries, I guess you can say. It starts with Illumination Foundation, then NHHA, and then you have the WPCC, and then you also have Uncompass. So it's a group, a collaboration, I guess you can say, of different entities, but they're all the same, essentially. And they have been running out of that Motel 6, in which their website clearly states it.
Right.
And their president, CEO, is connected to NHHA and Illumination. They're all kind of entwined together.
Absolutely. So I think what we need to do from a staff level is to see which one of these operations actually does have a business license on record. Because in order for them to operate at that location, they would have to present some information to the business license department, and they would have to be issued a license to operate at that location. So if they're operating, just like you said, under this WBCC or whatever, that's a total different, that's news to me. But the things that we talked about were they need to take care of the exterior landscaping within a specified amount of time. They need to paint the exterior of the building within a specified amount of time. And we need to, I think one was 90 and another one was 120 days. And then the third thing is that we would do a monthly inspection of the facility and report to the Planning Commission. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a conditional approval with a conditional use permit. And if we come back and report to you that we find all these inconsistencies, we're coming back to the Planning Commission, sooner than later.
Vice Chair? Go ahead.
But if they are already operating up there under that name, or they've got a sign in the window, doesn't that tell us that that's the kind of business they're gonna run?
It could, but again, there were, I think we had opportunities for planning commissioners to visit their location in the city of Long Beach. We opened that up to planning commissioners, and I think the chair, at the very last minute, couldn't attend because she was not feeling well. But the remainder of the planning commissioners did not partake in that on that tour. I don't know. Commissioner Galande,
I actually went.
Commissioner Galande actually went and saw that facility, and I did tell the planning commission that if you do go, this is not a motel that you're visiting. You're visiting a former hospital that they took over, and they're running this operation from there. So that, compared to this, are not one and the same. If the Planning Commission believes that, this needs to come back to the commission sooner than later, let us know. We can schedule a hearing for next week, for next month, and bring some of these issues up again, and then they can come and defend themselves as to why there are so many inconsistencies in the information that was provided to the commission.
I don't know what the procedure is or the process, and this is the first time, and I've been on the Planning Commission for many years, but to bring an item back, is that going to create a problem with the community or the city? Or is that something we can do?
Yeah, that's something within your purview. That's why it's a conditional use permit. If you're not meeting the conditions, or if the Planning Commission seems to have needs clarification, for example, of course we can bring it back before the commission for that purpose.
Larry, I got another question. So how can they be working out of there without plans and permits? Are the 88 compliant inside? I mean, they're working out of there, and it sounds like they went through approval for the Planning Commission, but it kind of reminds me of the hotel on the hill. They're in there operating or doing work without a permit. So something's not right here.
So if they're doing work without a permit, the city has an opportunity to send out code enforcement. The city's building official can also go out there to see if there's actually work being done without permits. I mean, that's a clear violation.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying, so they're operating business now out of there.
Okay.
So do they have a C of O? I mean, are they permitted to work out of that building?
The last time I spoke to the planner, who is Chantel, on this particular thing, they were working towards getting a business license. I don't know if they have been issued a business license yet. Maybe Travis has a response to that question.
I can't speak to the C of O itself. Unfortunately, I'm not a building code expert. I mean, it's still for, you know, residential purposes, either the hotel or the recoup facility. So I don't know that they would need a different, you know, occupancy type specifically. But as far as the business license, yes, I can't quote the exact information on it, unfortunately, but I do know that they did pull the approvals through our office to obtain their business licenses. So providing they went downstairs, pulled the license, which we could absolutely confirm, just not this evening, unfortunately, you know, they would be authorized to commence the conduct that we approved here, or that was
But
approved here.
In that case, okay, that building's, they're not compliant. Okay, I was there today, okay? They're not compliant. So the building safety needs to go up there and do an inspection.
Well, I do want to clarify. I know we're talking about a lot of different issues, you know, here, so it's like, don't know that I'm going to address every single one. The conditions that we put in place for, you know, within such a period, I believe as Gabriel mentioned, it was 90 for one, 120 for another, and that was from the commencement of their operations. That was how the conditions were written. You know, let's say at best they've been in operation now for a month. I know it's been less than that, but it's only been a month since the last PC, so we know no more than that. The conditions were written, you either have 3 months or 4 months, depending on the specific improvement. Right now, and this may, you know, I don't want to step into legal territory, but I wouldn't say they're technically out of compliance with the conditions yet, because they're given a specific period to conform or to comply and do the improvements that they were required to do. To Gabriel's point, and I believe the Vice Chair's question about bringing it back, I really think at this point, not to, you know, take away from any of the concerns. I believe everybody's comments this evening are valid. It's if we get to that point 90 or 120 days in and they then haven't done the condition improvements, well, now, yes, they are out of compliance with the conditions of approval. We have the full recourse to bring it back here and say, you're not complying. We could pursue revocation or some other action. Right now, they're still in that window where they can be in compliance. They can meet all of the standards.
So they haven't submitted anything to planning as far as?
I can't say definitively one way or another. It is absolutely something I can look into tomorrow.
Okay.
I just, not something
Because how can they be?
project by project that
Right,
we've
so how
tracked.
can they be in compliance if they haven't submitted something, you know?
Well, again, because the conditions were specifically written to give them this period of time to submit plans and make certain improvements, you know, specifically to the landscaping. They have this window of time. We're only this far through that window.
Okay.
They technically have, you know, no less than 2 additional months to complete that, you know, to take that action, submit the plans, do the improvements. So right now, they're in a bit of a period of flux.
Right.
Where they haven't satisfied the condition yet, but the time period they have to satisfy
It's
it
not
hasn't
expired.
elapsed.
So I guess my question is, how did we allow them to move in, occupy their business, and they're not, you know what I'm saying, without getting some type of floor plans, permits?
I understand your question. As memory serves from seeing the conditions before we did execute the resolution, and as it was discussed over the last couple meetings, I don't believe the language was ever, either by the commission or by, you know, staff's preparation, I don't believe the language was ever put in place to say you needed to upgrade the landscaping and, you know, refurbish the building, paint, all of that before you can ever establish. There was no time, no cutoff to say what you have to do before you can pull a business license. It was simply a time period that you have to complete those improvements.
No,
So those two things could overlap.
I get that. My question is like, okay, so basically it's a change of use. It's not a motel, okay?
It's a
And-
change, yes,
It's
that's
change of
correct.
use.
Correct.
Okay, so now I go on a business license. At what point, who says, you know, what are you doing here? Are you ADA compliant? You know, and they have to show a floor plan or something. I mean, I don't understand.
That type of thing is not typically
through the
required.
cracks.
No. If you're doing construction, if you're doing something that's changing occupancy, yes, there could be. And change of use doesn't necessarily mean change of occupancy. because there are some things that can overlap. But through the planning office and what we review simply as far as the land use conformity, we have an approved CUP that approved the recoup facility. They came in to pull their clearance through our office to ultimately get a business license. They met the standard for that. Without coming in to propose specific construction, and again, painting and landscaping, those types of things aren't something that's gonna trigger, ADA upgrades and things like that. There isn't an automatic trigger that says you have to go in and make sure that every single thing on the property meets all current code standards, building, fire, ADA, whatever it may be.
I've never had a remodel in my life that when you're changing the use of the building, that you didn't have to have plans, schematic, to show what you're doing. I bet you walk in there today, inside the building, and it doesn't comply. It doesn't comply with ADA.
It is an older building and it's been there decades,
Yeah,
so
it doesn't.
it's quite likely that there is something that could be true for half the city at a minimum. Where I would just, I don't want to speculate too much. Obviously, I don't represent the facility. I can't speak to the exact improvements, but I can try to compare it to the other facility that we referenced down at the south end of the city. The improvements they were doing, and I use improvements very, very generously, it wasn't anything structural. It was maybe a different type of bed that was going in that doesn't require coming in to submit plans for the city. Could have been painting, could have been things like that. Just like we ran into the question, I forget, we mentioned the one on the hilltop. That one, they did certain improvements that don't require permits. If you're gonna paint a room, you don't need a permit for it. They did other improvements that did. I wasn't gonna leave that sentence hanging. They did other improvements that did. So I want to be I would suggest being very careful saying improvements automatically requires it changes occupancy. That's not always the case, or it requires that permits have to be submitted. Not always the case if they're just, non-structural or something else.
So it used to be, I guess not anymore, but if you wanted to change the use and pull a permit, you had to go through an inspection of the building. I mean, I've done them dozens of times, so now we're not doing that?
I know there have been changes. Again, I don't want to speak too much for the building division. There have been, there's constantly evolving requirements depending on the official and as regulations change. If you're changing occupancy, whether you need to get a new, getting a new C of O, whether that's requiring the full new inspection, all of that. I think it is also a question on this one, whether, motel versus the recuperative care, either way, people are living there, in some capacity for some length of time, whether that is in fact a change of occupancy. That would be a question we would have to run by the building official.
Different code from hotel, long stay versus.
It would be a question, I would have to defer that question to the building official. I wouldn't be comfortable.
So you're gonna check tomorrow if there is a C of O, is what you're saying?
We can look into that, absolutely.
Okay.
Sir, there's a big point that I think we're just glazing over here, is that there were things that were supposed to happen aside from the conditional use conditions during the transition. Well, there was no transition, number one.
What things specifically, if I may ask?
They were going to be pulling out all the beds and upgrading the rooms to accommodate recuperative care. That was said in the meeting, and we can check the minutes on that.
Fair enough, yeah.
So that being said, they had no opportunity to do that because there was no transition, because they were already operating. And several of us on our own time have gone by and witnessed what is a filthy disgrace of an operation going on there. So I hope that's not the standard that our city's okay with. It's awful. I mean, that's the point of this, is that it's an eyesore, and conditions in the short time since July 8th have deteriorated there. And it just takes having been there before the hearing and after to know that that's true. And I've got, no reason to make that up, man. I just...
No, what I would just suggest, and this is just, I'm speaking only for myself here, and not as a representative of the project, because I believe, I haven't gone by the site myself personally, but obviously I believe, we're all capable of ascertaining if a site looks run down. It's pretty clear. Is we can go tomorrow and confirm, one, whether they were required to do anything for the C of O or for a new C of O, whether they had submitted any other thing. To my knowledge, I don't believe any improvement plans for the units themselves had been submitted, but I can't confirm right now. I do know that zoning clearances and ultimately business licenses should have been issued. I know at least our portion was. If they have been, that was about a couple weeks ago, if I remember it coming in. That would put us about a couple weeks out from the first inspection that we did condition that staff would do. What I would suggest is, we follow the conditions that we put in place. We take the time in the couple weeks here, we go out. If they are operating that way, I would be highly surprised that they would come in and overnight in the next 2 weeks just somehow get everything in compliance. If they do, great. I think that's what we want. If they don't, then the process that we've put in place to enforce that can be executed. And hopefully that would then give us time, as needed. I know we are not set specifically to come back and report to the commission, until we've completed 6 months worth of inspections. But, I don't want to speak for Gabriel or other staff right now, but potentially it's something we could look at depending on where they stand, maybe providing an iterative update. But we would have that opportunity here in a couple weeks, and that really was, what we designed the approval to account for.
All right, thank you.
One other item that I observed up there yesterday and a month ago, there's an entrance and an exit. There's 2 driveways in and out. I'm sure the fire department's familiar with that.
Onto the knuckle?
Onto
there, or
the
cul-de-sac?
property.
Yeah.
One of them has a yellow steel locked bar across it, so you cannot exit the property. If there is a fire in there, those people are trapped in there with their vehicles. They can't get out that backside. So I think that's something that urgently needs to be looked at, either by the fire department or code enforcement, if we have a code enforcement. That is something that is certainly a major problem. And from what I observed, and the people that were out on the grounds with all of their wares, it looks like a fire hazard to me.
Noted.
Vice Chair.
I have a couple of comments and reports or announcements. For Commissioner Ronica, is there any way you can give us a recap of the NHHA-LB? Maybe a couple seconds, if you don't mind.
Okay, so it's really difficult for me to give you a fair assessment in the sense because it's a hospital. It's an old hospital that they're currently in the process of renovating into a recuperative care. So that particular facility will hold 300 people. I believe they had like 38, maybe 38 to 50 people that were occupying that facility. I did arrive 30 minutes early, which allowed me to kind of snoop around, I guess you could say, on my own. And I walked to the back, I walked to the front, and that's where I saw the signage linking WPCC and Compass, the different foundations. That particular facility is also used for movie sets, for movies. So it's kind of creepy a little bit, to be honest with you. It's a little strange. I did talk to an employee that worked there. He had been working there for about 90 days. And he said clearly that he was in a position where he was the only one with 35 people often. And sometimes he would have backup. He did mention the fact that he does administer medication, didn't feel comfortable doing that. That being said, they did bring that up later on because there were cameras everywhere. Just, I know they probably heard me talking to this guy, and they did mention the fact that they're not licensed in regards to the medication portion. So it's kind of like her analogy, the doctor's analogy was like me administering medication to my mom. They'll teach the staff how to do that. And that staff, they don't have to be medically trained in order to do that, which is concerning for me because a lot of the medications that I saw when they showed me the pharmacy was stuff that needed to be locked up, and it was something that was used for, as they mentioned, some people have, behavioral serious issues like schizophrenia, et cetera, et cetera. One thing that I did question was in regards to their program and them transitioning people. How do they transition them into permanent housing? Because they're only there for 90 days, and based on the information that I gathered, people are staying about 14, 15 days. Now, where do they go after that? Okay? And they were highlighting this. They were very proud of the fact that they had about 400 people that have now transitioned into homes based on their program. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. That's good. And when they came to us, if you remember, they said that the folks that will be there will be from the city of San Bernardino. Do you remember them saying that? That they were going to be from the city of San Bernardino, and they wouldn't be from other cities. They would be from the city, which meant those people would transition into permanent housing somewhere within our city. Well, I found out, based on their own testimony, one of the employees said, yeah, we've housed 366 people, that's Long Beach people, of which 100 are now permanently housed in San Bernardino. Okay? So what they do is they provide help with, let's say, a housing voucher, with their first deposit, things of that nature. What happens after that? What happens after that? So we have now 100 people here in San Bernardino that are from Long Beach, obviously. Another thing that I will say, I think their intention of their program, it sounds really, really good. But for us in San Bernardino, how is this going to help us with our economic development? This is not going to help the city of San Bernardino. It's only going to bring us down, especially based on what I've seen, what you've seen. We've had my mother just drove down there, and she saw 2 women that were walking with Depend diapers on. That was it, Depend diapers and T-shirts. That is not something that we should have in the city of San Bernardino, unfortunately, especially in that corridor. That's our college corridor. That's the university area where families are going to be bringing their families and to show their kids off at their graduations and so forth, and this is what they're going to see. I have had a chance to not only do the observation there, but I spoke with the manager at the Ralph's grocery store. I've spoken to the different businesses in the local area, and they have said they've seen a change in the homeless population. They have their regular homeless people that they've seen for years, and then they have this new crew that's come in that are off their rockers. And this has been in the last few months. It's not like it's been long-term, which is concerning for me. So, like I said in the last meeting, I did not agree with it. They were very, let me just also go back. They were very, very nice when I was there. They did a thorough tour, had a chance to see most of the facility that was not quite renovated. They went over their program. It was, it was interesting, but I said, you cannot compare it because it's a hospital, like convalescent home almost setting versus a motel setting. Now, I do know that this particular organization is the founder, Paul Leone, created Illumination Foundation. Illumination Foundation has had lawsuits, ACLU lawsuits, which at the end of the day, that impacts who? The city, okay? For vermin, rodents, violence against the people that were living there, poor conditions, etc. You can Google La Mesa, which was a motel setting that they had, which has the lawsuits underneath it, okay? Now, their response was, that was 3 years ago, everyone gets sued, Google is Google. It was very nonchalant about it, but it's not, this is something that we should take very seriously. I said, if you can show me a motel that's been successful at this, then I will go back and I'll retract what I said, my vote, which was a no. But they could not do that because they do not have a motel setting that has been successful thus far. Okay, so what else do I have here? I think that's pretty much it. They did try to really disconnect themselves from the Illumination Foundation. Let's talk about that. They talked about bringing in jobs to the city of San Bernardino, how they were going to help us with the jobs. Well, I pulled up their website for NHHA, You go to their website, you're going to see some great jobs. There's one, I think, an executive director, $125,000. Not bad for San Bernardino, but guess what? Those jobs are not posted for San Bernardino. They're for Orange County. Okay? Now, if I Google Illumination Foundation, you're going to see the jobs for San Bernardino there. For their caretakers, $20 an hour, extra $1 if you work the night shift. So how is Illumination Foundation not connected if they're the ones doing the hiring for San Bernardino at minimum wage? Now, I know that if you hire someone with very low salary, what is their incentive to provide quality care? Okay, so I'll just leave it at that at this point. So like I said, they were very nice people, and I think their program with their intention is good, but there are just so many other little things that are concerning, and it's not a good fit for the city of San Bernardino, especially not right there at the University Corridor or anywhere else. What's going to happen, which has been happening with the city of San Bernardino, is they're using the city as a dumping ground to dump everything here. We do not have our navigation site created yet. That's not built. I know you mentioned, Mr. Elliott, that we have lots of, transitional housing for people through, I'm thinking of the different facilities that provide housing for people, our shelters of that nature. We have enough. We don't need any more. We need these other cities to be responsible and accountable for their people, and not to dump them here in San Bernardino and think that it's okay. The city of San Bernardino will never thrive if we continue to allow subpar conditions. And at the end of the day, the only ones to blame would be everyone here. That's it. Because we're the ones that help make the votes based on our people that we represent. Okay, so 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what are we looking at? That's how I look at things. Okay? So that's kind of how I feel, but just to say, they were very nice people, very, very sweet. I would actually go there and volunteer to help if I could. I really would. But for what we need in the city of San Bernardino, this just isn't a good fit.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that recap. I just wanted to touch on some other items that I had listed here. Just wanted to thank our city staff. There's an EV project on Mill Street that has a large sign of what that project is. I'm not sure if I saw it on Mills, the Starbucks that we approved some time back. The Dutch Brothers making really good progress. I know that one was sitting for a bit. Just like to commemorate our city staff for getting these projects up and rolling. They're progressing and setting new signs. I know I had mentioned that in the past. The other thing that I had is for commissioners that are going out, planning commissions that are going out to the sites. I love it, digging it, and holding our city staff accountable, making sure we're abiding by the rules, by our development code. And then the last thing that I had is we have the reopening of the Mount Vernon Bridge, August 23rd. I believe it is, if not, correct me. I'm not sure the time. But
it is 9:30 a.m.
9:30. Hopefully we can attend. But other than that, keep up the great work. I know city staff has a lot on their plate, and I really like all the development that's happening in our city. Please keep it up. Thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I just have a couple of questions. I called Alyssa the other day to get some information on two projects that are occurring in Ward 2. I represent Ward 2, and constituents often ask me, and I'm going to be reporting at the next neighborhood association meeting. Whatever happened to the project next door on West Highland, next door to the Jack in the Box, which was approved for a Starbucks and some retails? They cleaned the property, took the homeless out, fenced it, and then nothing. And it's been about a year. The second project is in the same location, but behind the Jack in the Box. It was a welfare office, and they moved closer to the Mimiskubiabi neighborhood. And we heard that IHP was taking over the building, and they fenced it and covered it, and they did some changes in the parking, the way they park, and then nothing happens anymore. So we were wondering what was up with, what the status is on those two current projects.
Vice Chair, Commissioner Lopez, we can look into that. Travis's team basically is responsible for those types of project implementation things. I don't know if he has an update that he can give to you this evening, or if he has to go back and do some research. But regardless, if we'll do some research, we can send it to you by email, let you know what's going on, what the latest is. But it's not unusual for the Planning Commission to approve projects and it never gets to move forward. So we're lucky to see somebody like Dutch Brothers, for example, who got approved. In fact, that location was approved for something else, and Dutch Brothers stepped in, and now you can see the building going up. So we can look into those specifics. I'm sure Travis is taking notes, and we can bring that either as a response to an email to you,
I'll send you
or
an
we
email,
can share
you
with
know.
other planning commissioners as well, or we can bring it back to you next planning commission meeting.
And the question is also, well, how long I was told that one of the project was, I guess the developer didn't send in some changes to the safety or whatever. But it's been over a year. It says, how long do we wait?
So,
And that's the other question.
I mean, projects are approved, and the expectation is that within a year that they pull permits. But then we have elements of our code that allows for them to be granted an extension to submit plans. So you might have a project that was approved by the Planning Commission, and we have to grant at least two one-year extensions. I think we can give up to a maximum of 3. Right.
That's correct.
Yeah. So 3 years would be the maximum, and then even after that, they can request, and then we can consider it or not consider it. But so it does take quite some time, and don't be surprised. If you find the projects that we approved and we were all excited. One of the ones that I remember vividly is the guy who wanted to do salads. I don't know if you remember that. He came here and he was going to do salads for like $7 or whatever. And I was excited. I was going to go there the next day, but we haven't heard a word since then. So a lot of things happen, and sometimes you have to be patient. But in these two instances that you've given, we will look into it and come back with some responses for you.
I would just say, for the Starbucks that you did ask, it is my understanding that one is in, I believe it's second round of plan check right now. So no permits have been issued, but it is moving forward. It's just plan check is not out there visible, but we can look up the specific status of it and get that out to you shortly. Mm-hmm.
Any of the other commissioners?
Sorry, I had one more comment regarding the general plan draft. I did see the updates online. The last day to make comments is at the end of this month or September?
I believe so. If there should be a date on each one of those elements to make comments on them. So at least for the ones that have already been posted, you can make comments on them.
For anything that has gone up already, plus or minus a day or two here or there, it's the beginning of September. Because we were posting everything by the beginning of August and we were giving 30 days. We do still have about 4 or 5 other elements to go up. And we had committed previously that when they do any element, the time it goes up, it will be given at least 30 days for any comments. So that date will kind of shift as things go.
And are there going to be any workshops for the general plan? I think I saw on the website. Are you guys aware?
So, well, I'll let Gabriel jump in.
The plan is to have, the plan is when we have enough elements that have been posted to come back, at least do one round of the GPAC, just to bring people, because some people haven't talked general plan over the last few years, and I've heard that from the Gold Tower, and I've heard it from members of the public. There is an itching to kind of come back and discuss this. So yeah, there will be an opportunity. However, what I do not want to see happen is for us to now go back and change the things that we've already done before, because we already charted up a path going forward. And our environmental analysis and things like that are already kind of locked into what we have described that we're actually going to be doing. But we're going to be open to ideas, suggestions, any kind of modifications we can make without making some real structural changes to what we already have.
And I just wanted to make a recommendation, like on the general plan draft, if you will. Maybe when we have smaller items or a lower count of items on the agenda, maybe we can take advantage of the time and kind of brainstorm among the other commissioners like we did for the Elements Housing Plan or anything related to planning.
Do you mean on the elements that we've currently posted online, or the ones that are going to be coming down the pipeline?
The ones that are coming out, and in general, the overall plan, or anything that's related to planning that we can brainstorm as a planning commission. So maybe food for thought for any meetings or in the future.
Definitely food for thought.
I kind of wanted I forgot one more comment on my notes, which is I thought was kind of interesting. So, they did have a chance to. Mr. Leon had mentioned that they had driven all around the city of San Bernardino with the mayor, looking at and I guess a council person. They didn't say who, or council people looking at the different facilities and motels within San Bernardino. Because I said, why did you guys choose that location? They go, oh, the mayor drove us around and we looked at different locations and some of them were dumps. And this was the best location for the recuperative care. Just wanted to tell you guys that.
Do you have anything else? Any other the commissioners have any other announcements or anything of that nature? So you are going to bring back to us information that we discussed in length?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have a director's report?
Vice Chair, members of the Planning Commission, to my left is our new interim city planner, Mr. Saeed Naseh. He is a retired community development director from the city of Carson. We've been kind of recruiting for this position for a very, very long time, at least since I've been here, and we haven't really found the right candidate. So he brings in a lot of experience, and that would make my job a little bit easier. I don't have to wear so many hats. So welcome, Mr. Naseh, to our team. The other thing I was going to talk about was the Mount Vernon bridge opening August 23rd at 9:30 a.m. But I also want to take this opportunity to talk about the state of the homeless situation in our city. I think I know all of you have your different perspectives about it, but it's a bigger problem than we think it is. Yeah, this is perhaps the biggest challenge that the city has, and I think that if we do not address it head on, we are not going to be able to succeed economically, because when it only takes one visit from a prospective developer to say, they need to go clean up their act. And you would hear people tell you, well, don't throw money into housing because it never helps. But I think it's how the money is spent. Right now, to address any of the housing situation in our city, we're depending on CDBG and all these other home key funds and things that have strings attached to them. And because of that, there are already organizations that are lined up. You know, I'm a provider of this and I'm a provider of that, because we don't have a robust enough housing department to actually go out and do these things. So we have to coordinate with Salvation Army. There's a slew of organizations in the city that we don't even know of that are getting funding from several sources that provide, because there's a lot of money in it. I mean, if you can house one occupant for $1,000 a month, you know, and you can have 6 of them in a room or whatever it is, there are a lot of organizations that are doing that, and the city can't do anything about it because those kinds of uses are permitted by law. So if we are going to solve the challenges of this community when it comes to housing, oh, by the way, I don't know if you're aware of the data on the percentage of homeless population. City of San Bernardino has 44% of the homeless population for the entire county of San Bernardino. So look at how big this county is. We have the highest percentage by far. We're not even, the second city is not even close. We're in the 40s, and I think the second city is about maybe 14%, and then it kind of dwindles. But again, this is a point-in-time count, so I don't really know how accurate those counts are. But the point I'm trying to make is that it is not a matter that we just talk about and talk about and talk about. It is a matter that we have to act upon. Because I have witnessed when we had Paris Hill Park occupied by tents. If you can go by Paris Hill Park today, you don't see any tents there. And we've been able to be successful in transitioning them, but we don't have the resources. The best thing we can do is move people out, put them in a hotel or motel for 2-3 weeks. Some of them can't stay in that environment, so they punch holes in the wall, they do certain things, and they have to be evicted. That is not the city's fault, but we're trying to help. So what happens is, then they get more creative, then they go somewhere else. Look at Pioneer Cemetery, for example. I mean, to me, that is a disgrace. That is a cemetery. It's an encampment. Tents. One half of it is a full-blown encampment. The other half of it, you can still see the gravestones. Well, who is to blame for that? I don't know. But so we're taking baby steps to solve gigantic issues. And until we actually take this issue as a number one issue for this city, we're going to keep talking about these kind of things. Everybody wants this homeless population to go, but nobody has a specific solution, and we are doing the best we can. You know, we have a housing division, we have an outreach division, we have a liaison in the Salvation Army to do outreach. But every single day in our office, if you visit our office, you would have, 5-6 people coming into the building looking for assistance. And sometimes this population has to mingle with people who are there to pull permits. And that is a challenge. So we don't have a designated floor whereby we provide those services separately without interfering with the way we provide service for the public. So these are the things that I face on a daily basis, that I think things need to be done, but then we are constricted by what we actually are able to do at this particular time. So, so when we talk about this issue, I mean, just bear in mind that there's a lot of elbow grease going into it. You may not see the results, because it's not lickety split, because this thing started a long time ago, and it went on for way too long, and now it's staring us right in the face. And now we have to make some very critical decisions. So.
I have one comment.
What
I'd
are
like
other
to,
cities doing? Okay.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make
Commissioner.
a comment. So, first of all, let's be honest, it's a mental health issue, okay? So we need to build mental health.
That's part of it.
Facilities. It's not like someone lost their job and they're sleeping on the street. That's not what's going on here, okay? And plus, if they follow the law, if PD arrests these people for sleeping on the street, sleeping in the parks, do your job, do that, put them in a mental facility, and then that's the start. But you can't fill up every Motel 6 in town with these people, because that's not going to work.
We can. And statistically, about 28% of the people that we encounter have mental issues. But the other thing that's going to surprise you is how people get into that situation, how people get to be homeless in the first place. And then there's a whole lot of literature that kind of goes into that.
No, I get that, but if you go up there, so I shop at Stater Brothers on 40th. Every single time, it's the same people, on the sidewalks, they're across the street from the dairy, and nothing's being done. Nothing's being, PD's not arresting them, they're not putting them in jail, they're not taking them to mental health. So, and that is the law. Supreme Court, ruled on that. So why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we taking control of the situation?
In instances where those are made known to us, we have a team. The police department has a team. Our housing division has a team of people that would go out and interface with these populations. They have a right to refuse service, and sometimes they do. The ones that have mental issues, of course, there's a wing of the county that has trained professionals who deal with that kind of population. So, I mean, there are things in place. This is a, as I mentioned to you before, this is a huge challenge for the city. Businesses are complaining. We hear it, and so it would be in the best interest of the city to make sure that we're able to, take some very drastic steps. I can tell you that there are those who are dedicated to doing that, but it just seems like there's more to do than there are people who can actually do them.
And what are the other cities doing? Why aren't we holding the other cities accountable for their residents versus them coming here?
So when we use certain types of funds, it is very, very difficult, because when those funds are given to our city, we cannot outright discriminate against people. Now, I have heard it said many times by many people, only for residents of the city of San Bernardino. Yeah, that's easily said than done. But when somebody gets picked up in an emergency, whether you're from the city of San Bernardino or Colton or Rialto, it doesn't really matter. You get service provided to you. So
Long Beach.
in our situation right now, where there are two navigation centers being built in our city. One is the one built by SBPC081225, and the other one by Lutheran Social Services. Lutheran Social Services is about 70% complete. I don't know if you guys have seen the campus. I mean, it's really up. We can actually see that. Ours, we've cleared the site, and we haven't done the grading of the site yet, and we're working with bringing things. At the very best, upon completion, our facility would handle 200 people, some with recoup care, et cetera, for a short period of time. Now, 200 people is better than nothing, but there is also a separate element to that, is how do you treat that population once they leave your facility? Where are the homes that they're going to go into? Who is building those kind of homes? And to what extent is the government responsible for providing those kinds of homes for certain demographics of our population? There are developers who would take city, gifted property. City owns a property. We can give you the property if you develop on the site. I mean, there are those organizations, but in this climate of constant change, nobody is coming out anymore to say, I want to do this, I want to do that, because there's so much uncertainty out, in that development world. So now you asked what other cities are doing. I think the city that has the next highest percentage is about a city that has maybe 14%, and one city actually had 1%. So, I mean, when you're addressing 1% of the entire county's population, as far as the homeless population is concerned, is very different from when you're addressing 44%. How did we become the epicenter? What is it about San Bernardino that made us to be a place where everybody wanted to come and dump their people? I don't know. I can't answer that question.
I can answer it. Navigation centers.
We don't have one.
I know, but I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah,
Navigation centers, charities, those are all attractive things. It's almost like giving a cockroach some candy.
Well,
they're going to come when you have those resources are supposedly here. They're going to drop them here.
Unfortunately, that is what happens in an organization where we haven't really strengthened our economic base. It kind of leaves everything to the lowest common denomination, unfortunately.
So you're basically saying we have no standards and we have to settle.
No.
That's what I'm hearing, and that's the problem.
No,
We
we're not
shouldn't be-
settling. I mean, what are we settling for? What I'm
Homeless
saying
shelters,
is, in
navigation centers.
the absence of those very big things, all these little things would come. So it doesn't mean that we invite them. It's just a matter of it's just a natural law of existence. In the absence, look at our downtown. Look at how many vacant buildings we have. If our downtown was thriving and businesses flowing, and this place is active in the evening, all that population will go away. But there's no such thing happening in our downtown area.
Mr. Chair, I've been waiting. There's a whole lot of conversation happening right now. So I live in downtown. I live across the street from Meadowbrook Park, where the condo live-work lofts are. I dealt with 30-plus tents across the street for well over a year and was told because of a Supreme Court case there was nothing that could be done about it. The homelessness problem is a massive problem in our city. We've been a dumping ground for a long time, long time, long before many of us were alive. So that's not new. And we're never going to see economic development. We were talking before about low-income neighborhoods and what part of the city is. The whole city is low income. The whole city is a disadvantaged community. Look at every single census tract. There is not one census tract in our city that is not disadvantaged and low income. So the idea that, what are we going to do? Well, the whole city is low income and the whole city is disadvantaged. And I would either, a year or so ago, we had a big presentation, and I sit on the Measure S committee too, to talk about the finances. And there was a whole big presentation last year around the budget time where we had a homeless czar person come out and talk to us about a development that was going to be developed, and we were going to build, housing for the homeless, which is a good thing because they have to go somewhere, and we can't lock them up, and they exist. They're human beings, so we have to do something with them. Unfortunately, we are the county seat, right? And so there's a lot of social services that are here in San Bernardino because we are the county seat. But we've got to do something. And I know that Fontana has a housing facility, and I was upset because, I've been waiting for our update. I've been waiting for our, ribbon cutting of our housing center that we're going to have 200 and some odd beds to place these people so that we don't have to put them in hotels and motels and recuperative centers or whatever. I don't see it. It's not happening. Fontana, they went from, groundbreaking to ribbon cutting, and I feel like we haven't even gotten to anything, and the problem gets worse. We had development interests that are looking at Carousel Mall, but they're going to run away immediately when they drive downtown. Downtown is garbage. I live here. I live like 3 blocks from here, so it's infuriating. And there's well-intended. I live next to the Set Free Church, and and I applaud everything that they do, but then we get folks, coming into the park, on weekends with their trucks and just handing out food, and like you said, like anything, flies to honey. That's just human nature. That's the way it works. So there's not an easy solution. There has to be some kind of compassionate approach, but is also respectful and cognizant of the property owners that pay the property taxes here. My property, I'm the president of the Homeowners Association. I'm constantly paying for fixing vandalism caused by those homeless people. And it's infuriating to me. I can't have people walking around. It's awful. So we've got to do something in multiple levels. There's got to be leadership, and there's got to be consistent direction from the council, to the manager, and down. And so, I guess all of this is a long-winded way of saying, would it be appropriate at some point for us to get an update on where we are with the development of whatever this housing facility that we talked about a couple of years ago is?
I can give you an update on our navigation center, if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
I can give you an update.
That's where the housing is going to be, right here on
We
6th?
are, so the location is on 6th Street. I don't know if some of you have been there. It used to be the old, some kind of a facility for children. So the building has been demolished finally. Prior to the demolition of the building, it was vandalized many times. It was set on fire, as is typical. At least that structure is gone. We are currently working on plans to place the building, our navigation center at that site. We're going through the process of doing that. The next step is for the site to be graded. And once the site is graded, then the prefabricated structures will be actually brought to the site, and there'll be like 60 of them. It will be like a campus setting. So that is where we are going with that. Time-wise, we're going to have to see. There are some delays, with when you're dealing with consultants and engineers and stuff like that. There's always, cost overruns and things of that nature. But I can say that publicly because there's some other issues that we have to deal with behind the scenes that would make this facilitate that. And that what makes the Lutheran Social Services Navigation Center even more important, because that is farther down the line than ours is. They are 70% completed. The buildings are already up. They're framed. They might be painting them. Next thing you know, they'll be paving the site, and they'll be able to have an opening ceremony. But they also have run into funding issues, and so the city has to chip in just to make sure that this thing gets completed. I empathize with you, seriously speaking, because I come here every day, Monday through Friday, and I know what I see during the day and when I go home at night. And you reside in this city, and I can imagine. And it's a good thing you're pointing out that this is not a problem that originated 5 years ago or 6 years ago, whatever. I remember, as far back as maybe the 90s when I was working in different jurisdictions, and we would come to downtown San Bernardino for conferences. It's like, whoa, this is like really shocking to see this kind of display. And it's changing a little bit. 5th Street is a fresher breath air. If you can transfer some of the development we've seen on 5th and just kind of extend them down a little bit, it's a good point where you could say, well, look at what we're doing. But the point I'm trying to make is this: when people talk about Fontana has taken a very, very aggressive approach to solving their homeless problem. Even though they don't have as many, but they've taken a very aggressive approach, and they have set up specific funding. You mentioned Measure S. Measure S funding has components to it, one of which is public safety, and the other one is homeless services. Now, tell me, public safety, homeless services, what do you think most of Measure S is going to be spent on? Definitely public safety. So my recommendation to the mayor and the city manager and the city council is we need to go and set up a separate funding source specifically for homeless services. And we're going to have to reach out to everybody knows we have this problem. Measure S is not giving us those resources because it's spread thin. You have to deal with the one aspect of it. Having one single source to address homeless concerns is the way to go. So that if we felt like we need to go and purchase a motel building, we don't have to wait for the Elimination Foundation or the NHHA to come and buy a motel and start doing. We can, like Fontana does, they write a check. 15 million, 13 million, $8 million, whatever. We would have so much resources that we can actually hire people to run these facilities. Until we start doing that and have a strategic approach to solving this problem, we can talk about it a lot. We're going to see ups and downs, pits and falls, but from what I've seen, a month ago, driving by Waterman and 7th and looking at the Pioneer Cemetery, one end of it, cemetery, the other end of it on Waterman. Have you driven by there recently? Have you seen what's going on there? It is appalling. So we went there, we cleaned it out. Now they've moved. They moved to the adjacent parcel. Now you see another row of tents. So it's just, without the funding resources, unfortunately, this is going to be a concern that we're going to talk about over and over and over again.
I just have two quick follow-ups and all.
Okay.
So I'm interested in understanding about a funding source. And again, Measure S is the city's largest general fund revenue stream, I think, if not the largest, right behind sales tax. So it's
I think it's the largest right behind sales tax.
Yeah, so it's a tremendous amount of revenue that comes to the city, and as far as I can tell, there's no reason why homelessness is not part of the funding plan that goes into Measure S. So that's my first observation, and turns out we're going to have a meeting in a few weeks, and I'll talk about it then too. The second thing is there a single individual that works for the city of San Bernardino that is responsible for addressing homelessness in all aspects? In other words, is there a homeless czar, as it were, in the city?
Well, let me just kind of break down the city's organizational structure. The Community Development and Housing Department has a housing division, code enforcement, building and safety, and planning. In our housing division, we have housing staff that deal with this issue. We have a housing, homeless division housing representative that interfaces specifically with the homeless person. There is not one specific person who is, your entire job is just to deal with the homeless population, but we do have a division of the Community Development Department that deals with that. Now, I have not been designated the housing czar because my responsibilities are many. It's not just one thing, but that is part of the department that that is within my jurisdiction. It might get to a point where we might have to create a more robust department with a higher level individual responsible for that. I've seen that iteration in different communities, but we can't do that with our current funding source, unfortunately. We know we can't take CDBG money and create this thing and pay somebody a huge amount of money. But so again, I am talking specifically about Measure S because I recently looked into it as a way to help the city with some of these housing issues that we're having. And Measure S funds are poured directly into the general fund. So you can't even identify what have we spent Measure S money on. That's a little bit disappointing, unfortunately. So that's where I'm thinking, if we have a specific funding source strictly for homeless, it will be a little bit easier for us to identify what have we done with it, where have we done it with, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I can see some of the planning commissioners are departing gradually, so we're going to have to gavel this meeting to the next one.